One rule, don't buy American stuff. Canada's government will copy what the U.S. is doing. The big fight about buying and selling between Canada and the United States is getting worse. Something crazy happened. American brands, which used to be the biggest and best companies in the world, are being thrown out by their best friends. Your stuff used to be what everyone wanted first. They came first. Now they're coming last. In 2025, 7 countries that were friends with the U.S. started buying from Canada instead, not as a backup choice, as their new favorite. And big U.S. companies are really scared today. We're going to tell you about the 7 countries that stopped buying American stuff and started buying Canadian stuff instead. What happens at number 2 will shock Washington and make Wall Street really worried. Pay attention. Number 7, Brazil. It started with a snack, the same packaging, bright American colors, and a promise of yummy food brought from the land of shopping power. But in early 2025, that promise disappeared. Grocery stores in Sao Paulo started taking away products like Pringles, Oreos, and Pop-Tarts from their main shelves. It wasn't people being angry. It wasn't a big news story. Just things slowly going away. Shoppers looked for them and found something completely different. Canadian names, new pictures, different tastes. This wasn't about trying something new. It was the whole country moving away from U.S. junk food and toward Canadian-made foods that used to be second best, but now we're the winners. Behind the scenes, Brazilian rulemakers had quietly given out a bunch of warnings to shoppers in late 2024, making people worried about fake ingredients, super sweet corn syrup, and fake stuff added to food, most of it coming from old American snack and cereal brands. People's trust already getting worse because of past health problems. Got even worse when a secret report from Brazil's National Health Watch Agency showed that several U.S. brands were using old recipes not allowed under newer South American label rules. All of a sudden, being American-made was no longer something good. It was something bad. Canadian food companies, many of them medium-sized and pushed out before by U.S. companies taking over, moved fast. Brands like Nature's Path, Dare, and Made Good started selling more across Brazil's southeast stores with help from Canadian trade helpers and food delivery companies. In just 3 months, shelf space for Canadian crackers, granola bars, healthy cookies, and boxed cereals grew by 43% across big stores like Pão de Açúcar and Extra at the same time. Kellogg's saw their Brazilian money go down by 16% compared to last year. Kraft Heinz and Frito-Lay products were moved to back rows, sold with discounts, or stopped being sold completely in places where they used to be the best. People who know about the supply chain tell us that Canadian sellers are getting better. Treatment at Brazil's busiest ports, including Santos and Rio de Janeiro, with faster checks and deals that keep food fresh that the United States couldn't get. Even more interesting, deals have been made between Canadian food labs and Brazilian sellers, letting them make mixed products that blend local flavors with Canadian rules. Giving realness without giving up safety for middle-class Brazilian shoppers, this means fewer fake ingredients, clearer labels, and food they think is safer for their families. For American big companies, it means fewer contracts, less loyalty, and losing their spot faster in Latin America's most important economy. This is more than shoppers changing what they like. It's a signal. Brazil is not just reacting to bad news or following trends. It's making new rules for food control, choosing partners based on taking care of the earth, being honest, and seeming like good people. And for the first time in decades, American brands don't make that list. What used to be automatic placement has become competitive rejection, and the numbers don't lie. Brazil's orders for U.S. snack foods are at their lowest level in 15 years. But one country isn't just walking away from U.S. brands. It's replacing them with Canadian fashion labels across an entire continent, and you'll never guess which one. Number -1, Australia. A crisp new hoodie, soft jeans, everyday sports clothes that fit just right. For years, Australians bought American brands like Levi's, Gap, and Nike for that perfect mix of style and comfort. But lately, something weird has been happening in shopping centers from Sydney to Brisbane. Those labels are quietly going away. In their place, Canadian tags, brands most Australians hadn't heard of 5 years ago, are now leading new season launches, taking over window displays, and winning loyalty in a market the U.S. once owned. And it's not because the clothes changed, it's because the trust did. What the official numbers don't show is how much trouble had been building between Australian store owners and American suppliers be. Behind the scenes, lots of delays getting. New clothes, sudden price jumps, and stubborn worldwide contracts pushed store managers and fashion buyers to the limit. Add to that the ongoing frustration of U.S. brands forcing rigid seasonal drop schedules that didn't match with Southern Hemisphere seasons, and the situation exploded in late 2024. Australia's retail councils began actively looking for alternatives. Something fresher, more bendable, and less tangled up in company red tape. Canadian fashion brands saw the opening and jumped on it. Labels like Roots, Tentry, Frank and Oak, and Joe Fresh quickly expanded partnerships with Australian chains like David Jones and The Iconic. Their pitch was simple, honest sourcing, reliable turnaround times, and weather-appropriate collections designed with local preferences in mind. By early 2025, sales reports showed a 28% increase in Canadian clothing sales across major Australian cities, while American denim and lifestyle brands saw a 15% drop. But it's not just about shirts and jeans. This shift speaks to something deeper. Cultural matching. Canadian brands leaned into environmental messaging, local collaborations, and earth-friendly packaging in a way that connected with Australian millennials and Gen Z shoppers. American brands, still relying on old appeal and celebrity endorsements, came across as bloated and outdated. One Sydney-based retailer described the difference this way: Canadian brands ask how we do. Business here, American brands tell us how it's going to be. The fallout has been quick. Gap closed 3 locations in 2025. Levi's lost a key distribution contract with an Australian regional logistics firm. Nike, still strong globally, now finds itself increasingly undercut by newer athletic labels leveraging Canadian brand equity and production agility. Even department stores once proud of their American imports now highlight Canadian-made capsule collections as the fresh alternative to overhyped American basics. Analysts tracking this retail migration believe the Australian market is just the beginning. If American fashion giants continue to rely on old presence rather than regional trust building, they risk losing more than just sales. They risk cultural relevance, and once that's gone, shelf space is almost impossible to win back. But if you think fashion is a sensitive category, wait until you see what's unfolding in the world's most image-conscious luxury market, where even American beauty giants are now being pushed out by Can. Ada's silent surge. These shifts aren't overseas. They're in your cart, your pantry, your daily routine. Pause for a second, like subscribe, and then ask yourself, how many of your go-to brands are still truly trusted or just surviving? Number 5, UAE. Quietly and without headlines, shelves in Dubai's fancy supermarkets and wellness stores started to look different. Protein powders, expensive makeup, Halo-certified snacks, and fancy hygiene products many once brought from the United States were suddenly replaced, and not with local brands, with Canadian ones. In a country where image is money and shopper trust is super important, this subtle but deliberate shift away from American goods says more than any policy statement ever could. For decades, the United Arab Emirates, especially Dubai and Abu Dhabi, served as shining showcases for American exports. From Whole Foods-style specialty shops to elite fitness retailers and makeup counters inside 5-star malls, U.S. brands like GNC, Revlon, Crest, and Nestle USA dominated. They had the size, the shine, the history, but behind-the-scenes cracks began to form. Delays in U.S. shipments following post-pandemic supply chain reforms left Emirati distributors scrambling. More critically, multiple product lines failed to meet newly revised Halo certification requirements introduced by UAE's Food and Beverage Regulatory Authority in early 2024. Canadian companies saw an opportunity and they didn't waste it. Brands like Jameson Vitamins, Natural Factors, and Maison Orphy launched rapid compliance campaigns aligning every recipe with strict Halo and sustainability standards. The reward, priority placement in Spinneys, Lulu hypermarkets, and upscale wellness chains across the Emirates. Jameson alone saw a 42% sales jump across the Gulf region by mid-2025. What once took American brands years to establish, Canadian exporters accomplished in a single product cycle. But the shift goes deeper than product substitutions. Canadian consumer goods are now seen as clean, reliable, and culturally sensitive, traits that American multinational corporations increasingly struggle to project in a fast-evolving, high-standard market. In particular, Canada's dominance in plant-based protein, cruelty-free skincare, and ethical packaging design positioned it as the perfect alternative to aging U.S. brands that failed to evolve beyond SS marketing.